Live.
Hey, Kara Oosterhuis here with RealAgriculture.com. We are back here with a midweek edition of RealAg Live. I know it's a short week, but they always, I don't know about you guys, but the 4 day week seems to sometimes take longer to get by than the 5 day week. So we're here. It is Wednesday, and we are officially halfway through the week. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm very excited for my conversation today. I have Devon Walker joining me today, who is a farmer in Saskatchewan. Devon, how is it going?
I'm good, Kara. How are you?
I'm good. So do you want to tell us a bit about where you farm in Saskatchewan and what sort of operation you have?
Yeah, you bet. So I farm in northwest Saskatchewan near Lashburn. We run a grains and oilseed farm and some pulses up here. I've been farming. This will be my 11th crop. Me putting crop in the ground under my own name. So been at it a little while and farm with my wife, and we've just recently kind of taken over the management stuff of the farm over from my father, and yeah, I got 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a lot of work.
Well, a lot of girls around, it sounds like, so that that probably keeps you
Yes,
busy in itself.
three
Do you
daughters.
want
They're
to
fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Daryl Franzu, of course, everyone's got to start. The Saskatchewan group always seems to come together for these lives, and they always got a little bit of bugging going on. Daryl Franzu says, Mr. Walker, did you ever find the mug that you bought from that brewery in Saskatoon? No.
No, it's still in Mr. Francouz's Ford Edge car. Yeah.
and and Lindsay's asking how many sheep. Do you have any sheep
We
out there?
none. We raised like 3 sheep once, and they didn't eat enough grass around the barn to justify having them. And I don't know. And then we butchered them and never really ate them. And that was the end of our sheep history. We used to have like 120 hogs, like 10 farrowing sows, and 50 head of cattle on the farm growing up, along with the mixed grain when dad ran the place. So we kind of grew up with a little bit of everything except for chickens and sheep.
No chickens. Why is that? Just was never interested in poultry?
Yeah, it just never really fit us. We've got some ducks recently over the years just for the kids and just to clean up spilt grain, and they're cute and fun, but they're kind of jerks. Come the first
I was
cold snap of the fall after harvest, something came and ate them, and then I don't know. We just didn't have success with them, but they were good through the summer.
So, talk about a bit of, like you said, you're starting to take over some management roles on the farm. Do you want to talk a bit about the succession process that you guys have gone through, and maybe tiny bit of what was behind there?
Yeah, well, I guess the reason we came back to the farm was to lay down some roots and kind of join our community. My wife Pam, she's from Lashburn also. We're like high school sweethearts, so we both went to college and such. I did environmental sciences and I worked in mining out in Hinton, Alberta, and then oil and gas around Lloydminster. And it was time to take over the farm. Dad was getting to the point where he wanted to retire and have some purpose and so on. So we took it on. It's been 10 years on the farm, or this is our 11th year here working and living on the farm. And dad, I compare him and I kind of talk, and we compare ourselves to a boat with 2 different propellers, and we're both going different speeds, and kind of done a lot of loop de loops over the years as far as management and stuff. But we're now out of the harbor, so that's good. It took a while, but it's been a slow process. I can't complain too much now.
Yeah, it's never just something that can happen overnight, and it's hard to, I think, sometimes when it's something that is we're farmers, and it's also close to our heart, so it's not an easy process.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of different policy work. You were involved with APAS for a little bit. Do you want to talk a bit about your experience with APAS? You were how long did you sit on the board, and what sorts of things did you do?
Oh yeah. So I actually haven't sat on the board within APAS. So I'm a rep for our municipality for APAS. I have been for I think 4 years now. And then most recently, I was involved with the Youth Leadership Mentorship Program through APAS, where I got selected out of there's about 4 or 5 of us that went to Ottawa last year and got to go to the Parliament building. Bought this mug because Daryl still has my mug, and the so got to kind of see what it's like to be in Ottawa, like to be a government leader in this country. You're walking the streets, you're getting lunch where they get lunch. You kind of see what it's like to have that job and work where they work. So that was a big eye opener. Also got to attend the Canadian Federation of Agriculture's annual general meeting. So got to meet farm leaders from across the country. Mary Robinson. I can't even remember everybody else's names that were there. I met Lindsay Smith's husband, spousal unit there, Chris. You
That's an
just got to
experience in
meet.
itself.
Oh yeah, he was good. He actually approached me. I didn't know who he was, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, I think we'll get along." And so that was good. But just kind of get to see the high level agriculture and policy view within our country is pretty cool. It's a pretty big deal.
And I think we all can sometimes sit at home and have assumptions of how things work or don't work. What sort of surprises? Was there anything that you came out of after you were there? Is there anything that you came home with and you were like, "Wow, I didn't think that's how it worked."
Just like internal city living, I guess, or internal city. All Western Canada, all of our cities seem to be designed like a suburb. Like it's just suburbs. So you want something, you get in your car and drive. But you go to Ottawa, like those folks who work literally on Parliament Hill can walk from their houses or housing past a market, buy stuff on the way to work, walk away from work, and on their way home pick up their meat and eggs and milk and bread. And like, there's no wonder the mentality or whatever is that we don't need pickup trucks out where we live, or we need to all be driving EV cars, because 80% of the population in Canada lives in an urban center. So this isn't my first time off the farm, but just seeing an old historic city that is now a newer city and how people function every day there, that was a big eye opener to me. That's one of my takeaways, and kind of where you live shapes how you live and how you think about how others should live. So that was kind of a neat takeaway for me.
Abs- Absolutely. It's kind of amazing when you sit back and you go somewhere else. I mean, I found that even from like my small town you grew up in and you go to the big city of Calgary and you're like, "Wow, people really do truly think differently here and I can see why they think the way they do." And
Yep.
it's I think it's kind of important to recognize that for sure. So, as somebody who's interested in policy, somebody who is, I would say it's probably always been somewhat of a passion for you, correct?
Yeah, I guess my dad used to sit on the seed cleaning board and things like that, and was kind of involved with, I guess, a little bit more agriculture than just what's within our farm gate, and was always chatty about things. And him and I have different views on things. Obviously, the apple fell a little ways from the tree and got some sunshine, but the the overall, like I remember sitting in grain lineup, kind of complaining about the rail and complaining about certain things. And a neighbor of mine, Scott Owens, he's was sitting on APAS for quite a while as a rep, and he's now on the board of directors. And he kind of had all these answers for my complaints. And I said, "Well, how do you know so much?" He said, "Well, look into this APAS and see what you think. We could use some more folks like yourself." And it was a big eye opener, and it really opened up my agriculture network and has given me really good insight into what's happening across our country and in our province. It's been very beneficial for me.
So, as somebody who follows policy, we wouldn't be talking policy if we didn't dive into it a bit. There's been I mean, all you have to do is log into Twitter and you see right now that people are talking about the responsible grain or the grain code of conduct or however you are phrasing it. But what's your take on it, and what sorts of things do you think need to maybe be altered?
Um, with the responsible grain stuff, like I guess people are either for it or against it. And when I first heard about it, I thought, hey, that would be good. People are always looking for accountability and traceability within agriculture and within every industry. And so at first, I kind of thought, hey, this might be a positive. It might align a lot of different sustainability metrics that we're seeing from different companies and so on. And then I got reading it, and it's really tough to make a agricultural policy within a province because there's so much diversity in landscape and farming practices, even from, let's say, from north of Saskatoon to south of Regina. How can we even make a policy with any kind of specifics in it that spans from Nova Scotia to Vancouver, and everything in between? The responsible grain policy, the way I read there's a lot of specifics in it, and some of them kind of fall back to I guess, the most stringent jurisdictions. Take fertilizer or something like that, for example, because some municipality or county somewhere decided to put a certain procedures in place regarding one aspect of agriculture, and then it looked like the responsible grain group kind of said, well, maybe that should be across across the whole nation. But I feel that responsible grain, or documents like responsible grain, should just be reiterating the rules of the day within each jurisdiction. So that, like, if a local municipality passes bylaws on animal production or grain production, that you're committing to follow the rules of the day within your area. And I feel that that would probably resonate with our local and our international customers a lot better if we just reiterate the rules of our land as far as labor, fertilizer use, pesticide use, grain storage, diesel fuel storage, fertilizer storage, those things. Then it's a local, regional, provincial rules that are impacting people here that we're voting on and that our local voices are setting. And I think that's the key. So the responsible grain stuff, I feel that it's tough to paint all of grain production with the same brush coast to coast.
Yeah, and it's well, like you said, you can't paint anything coast to coast. In Western Canada to Eastern Canada, we're very different. I don't want to divide us, and I don't want to say that we're not all one country, because we are, and a lot of things are great about that. But it is very it is very important, I think, sometimes to, like you said, even being in Ottawa, looking at how different things run there versus how things work in cities in Western Canada is different. So it's important to recognize that, and I think that's a very great point you bring up.
Thanks. Yeah, like I think kind of with most policies, like even within Saskatchewan, you see a lot of the policy is kind of geared towards, I guess I'd call, like, the Regina Plains, or some of the where policy is made is Regina mainly, and a lot of people who are involved in policy making are close to that center. And it would be really easy to argue that a lot of the policies that are maybe beneficial to the Regina Plains area, as far as environmental stewardship and environmental farm practices and just good farm practices, what would be beneficial there would be detrimental to somebody who farms by Prince Albert, and vice versa. So it's really tough for folks, or I feel that not everybody sees the diversity within a province or within a region, as far as climate and soils and so on, and our farming practices have to be adjusted. One of the key takeaways I find, I can't remember her name. She's a livestock cattle feeder. She was on long ago, talked right place and farming in whatever area we're in. We got to do the right action at the right time for the right reason, and that can change with literally with the weather.
Yeah, and as we all know, the weather can change very drastically. As I think it was like 3 days ago when we were at minus 35. Are you warming up where you're at?
Yeah, I was like minus 18 yesterday, and I thought, oh, this is great. I can do all this stuff. And then I was outside, and my feet were freezing, and my hands were freezing, and my daughters were like, "Dad, your face is red," and it was cold and frozen. Today's minus
Yeah.
15. Some heat seed cleaning plant here this morning, and I'm loaded up to go do another load this afternoon too. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it's
So,
warmer. I'm loving it.
and Lara's saying Andrea Strovisawa with Shipwheel Cattle was the one you're referring to, she thinks.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Out of Tabor, Alberta. So yeah. But another kind of polarizing topic when it comes to ag policy right now is carbon tax. Do you want to dive a bit into how you believe that that should be tackled? Is this the same sort of situation that we need to be looking at it from province to province?
I think so, and I believe the provinces were originally given permission to do their own stuff, and each province kind of forged ahead with a process, and then the federal government sounds like it overstepped and said, no, not good enough, too bad, so sad, here's a backstop you must follow. And it's kind of laughable to see when grain drying wasn't included in the federal carbon tax exemption for farmers, or barn heating. Laughable because like those are literally our only climate resiliency tools. Is when it snows on our crops a month too soon, drying grain is literally the only way we can salvage that crop. And like, what's the carbon footprint of an acre of grain that actually makes it to its customer and into somebody's stomach versus an acre of grain that gets spoiled because you can't grain dry it in the last leg of its life and is wasted and doesn't even make animal feed. So it's kind of it's missing the forest for the trees, so to speak. Is my
So
take. I
well,
could go on, but I'm
it's one of those
I don't
things.
know. Politicians flying around the globe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. When you have
And every,
politicians flying around, oh,
no, go ahead, Devin.
I was gonna say when you have folks flying around the globe, or like a 747 burns like 150,000 liters of fuel in a 12-hour flight to take 400 people to Mexico. My farm can feed like 15,000 people off that amount of fuel. So it's kind of like, I don't know, weird complex where uh, I don't think carbon in agriculture is necessarily the problem. Should we watch it, manage it, try and do better? Yeah, but I can't see
Is it
us getting
being
away
solved?
from it. There's no technology to.
No, absolutely. And you're, as an Albertan, you're triggering me back to the Alison Redford days. So we're flying. Anyways, Lindsay says, Devin, you're making too much sense. So clearly you're resonating somewhere. But
In
what
Ontario, I'm resonating in Ontario. Go figure.
yeah, that's tough. Lindsay is no, she's good. She's easy to resonate with. I will not make fun of her too much when she's not here to defend herself. Um anyways, we want to, while we're talking about tough years, what sort of harvest have you had the last couple years in your area?
This last year was good. I think mostly everybody got their crop off in good shape. We didn't have to do any grain drying, or very minimal. Our faba beans we had to dry, but everything went in air bins and we managed it that way. But the two harvests previous to that, oh, I think I've just mentally blocked it out. How easy we forget that it was just horrible. Like we left some crop out at the end of 2019. It sat out all winter. Luckily, it was in pretty good shape come spring. We had like 11 moose living in our faba bean field all winter, just free grazing,
Oh
chewing
my
away.
god.
Um, it was yeah, it was a bad couple bad years, and the costs of those things is, luckily we can stretch it out, but like the wear and tear on machines and extra labor and extra fuel burnt and the grain drying costs all those years. Like it is good that we had some decent yields to kind of cover that up, but it was a tough slug. I kind of everybody wants their kids to try and have a chance at farming, I guess. And I think the last two harvests, if anybody asked me if I wanted my daughters to farm, my response was like a swear word followed by no.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
is there any do you have any thoughts on how to deal with some of the excess moisture that especially northern parts of the prairies have seen? It seemed to be like you said, I know even northern Alberta had a lot of a lot better of a harvest last year. How can we prepare for things like that? Is there anything that can be done?
I don't know. I see a lot of folks switching up their rotations a little bit. I see folks putting in barley, early season barley, shorter season crops. We're removing faba beans from our equation. They're just a long season crop up where we are, and they need three things to grow well. You need an early seed date, which hasn't really been happening. You need big moisture until mid August, and then you need plus 30 in September. And we've been a lot of years without that. So I think guys are doing folks are doing the rotation changes to try and shorten up their season. I half jokingly say there's a reason why, and up until 2000, the year 2000, most farms here were mixed farms because you just couldn't do that much combining in a fall. And all the old timers in my area say they did more October combining than September harvesting over their whole career. So, and that's
Wow.
stark contrast to say Regina area or south where
Oh.
September combining rarely happens in some areas. So,
I was gonna say, I think that in some of those areas, those poor people are down to harvesting in July a lot of times. So it's tricky,
yeah,
and I guess that just like that continues to bring up your point of we shouldn't be painting the whole country as one with one brush, let alone the whole each an individual province. Sometimes I think it's amazing that southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba could almost be a province and the north part of all the provinces could be a province. It's really,
yeah.
interesting how that works.
Well, if you
Daryl
look at the
Franz
soil,
No, 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 go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, if you looked at the soil zones and stuff, it would be way easier to design farm policy and transport policy and stuff like that based on like the soils maps. It's kind of like Alberta and Saskatchewan are at an angle with the soils that it just follows the climate. You got like the parkland, and then you've got the brown soil zone, and then you've kind of got that dry irrigation area that's southern Alberta and southwest Saskatchewan. And then we all could have like had our own railroad to the port, and we just like each province would be just like the south, the middle, and the north. It would have worked
Mhm.
great.
It would've, yeah, whoever made those lines, not so good. Daryl Franz, I'll bite. He says, "Do you have a problem with oil leases?" So, I'm
Uh,
assuming that you feel passionate about this topic, and, I'd like to know how you feel about oil leases.
I am not against oil leases. Number one, I know a lot of good people who work in the oil and gas industry. I know a lot of great people who have done wonderful, changing positive things in the oil and gas industry. Uh, we are just submersed in it here. We're in the heavy oil area, so there's lots of surface leases, lots of pipelines, lots of high grade roads because our area is heavy oil. It's like bitumen. Like if it's minus 20 out, you can pour a bucket of oil on the ground and roll it up like a basketball and carry it around. Like it's
Mhm.
gorpy, heavy stuff that has lots of sand and salt water in it. And there's lots of service industry to oil production here. That's why it's very beneficial, I guess, for communities, keeps a lot of people employed. Um, Sadly, that cold production oil around our area is no longer cost effective, and it's being surpassed by steam and thermal oil production. So we're seeing a lot of small companies in our area that are unable to make lease payments for farmers and landowners and are asking for lease reductions. And there's always a big ball of wax when an industry struggles. And those struggles are very prevalent right now. with the way the oil and gas prices in industry has dropped, and without additional pipeline capacity leaving our country, the pipelines we do have are getting filled with thermal production, lower cost thermal production oil from our area. So the cold production companies and leases are just slowly falling to the wayside. And that's not good for jobs. That's not good for landowners. That's not good for our economy. I don't know what the answer is, but there's just definitely problems that have arose that none of us could have forecasted.
And I know sometimes you like to talk about the urban and rural divide. Do you think this plays into it at all? Is this some of the problems we're facing too?
Um, I mean, the urban and rural divide, I guess we kind of talked about that earlier a little bit, where you don't know what you don't know. You just, unless you're willing to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, it's really tough to understand why somebody is farming the way they are, or managing the land the way they are, or why they're wanting to drain a slough or a bush, move a bush, or things like that. I think that the urban rural divide kind of plays into this whole producer consumer dynamic we're being told is a big issue as of late, where we have things coming up that our customers are asking for and the companies in the middle are asking for on behalf of the customer. And then there's this sustainability metric that everybody really enjoys talking about, but nobody can define sustainability. And I offer up a definition for sustainability, and it's that sustainability is what somebody else tells you it is in agriculture. Like, I can't define my own sustainability. And if I did, somebody would tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, but if you were defining your own sustainability, then how would you define it? I know you're going to say you would be told it's wrong, but what to you is
I'm,
sustainability then?
I'm being facetious when I say
Oh
I
yeah.
would be told it's wrong. That's tongue in cheek. Um, my my definition of sustainability is being adaptable for the right reasons, with my farm practices, with my timing, with technology, uh, being able to adapt when you can adapt for the right reasons. And that, I think you could put that across animal agriculture, whether it's corral changes or chicken barn changes and hog barn changes. Some things are grandfathered, and then when it's time to change, you change to the right process or the right solution of the day as best you can. And I think farmers do that. Geez, we do that 2-3 times a year. If there's certain conditions out there, well, we go do fungicide to try and keep that crop in best shape so that we can get a decent return, so that we can farm again next year and manage the land even better. Um, yeah, so I think we just always have to be adaptable. The world is always changing. The weather's changing. Our crops are always changing. Our customers are changing. To paint ourselves into a sustainability corner and say that we're always going to do this one awesome thing. Like, I heard a really good thing the other day. I think a farmer tweeted it somewhere. I should give credit to somebody other than me, but it was like, if, say, the responsible grains or sustainability code of practice would have been rolled out in 1980, it would have said, I will cultivate half my land 3 times a year. I will, use
Yeah.
spike soil sterilant in front of my bins to keep the weeds down. And like, science has proven that we need to change and manage things differently as time goes on. So, um, yeah, that's where my
And
head's
and
at
what
with that.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner either, but do you and when you're talking to farmers around the area, do you find that a lot of farmers are adapting to the times? Is there cuz I think sometimes a lot
100%.
of yeah, a lot of times I think we also get painted with this brush that we're all, the old men still walking around saying, "I'll never change what I'm doing."
We're all
And
bald, bearded, white males. No, I shouldn't say white, but statistically we are. Um,
yeah.
and and that the face of agriculture might not always change, but I guess what's going on behind the face should change. We've all, in my area, most folks have adapted to um, no-till we've got independent opener drills. We're always changing our fertilizer rationale or reasons and changing when we do things and why we do things. We're so many people have put in grain dryers to be able to adapt to the changing weather around us. We've got folks doing drainage changes. We got cattle folks and producers doing upgrades to their watering systems with solar and keeping cows out of riparian areas. People are doing the right adaptation for their farm at the right time when it's needed. And that is the face of agriculture, period, and has been for 100 years in this country.
So then,
Yeah.
I guess one last thing, if we're looking at, you have said the problems you'd have with responsible grain and a code of practice, but if we aren't, do you think something needs to be implemented? Maybe this isn't the right way, but do you think things need to be changed in that perspective?
With the code itself, or how? Sorry, I'm maybe.
No, no, I maybe wasn't being clear, but not so much with the code itself. But do you think there needs to be some sort of code of practice, even if we are, maybe looking at it in a provincial way, or like, do you think there should be something out there telling farmers how to be sustainable? I guess I
I
don't know
think
what
there
word to pick.
are, Kara, already. There already are research projects and publications through like Alberta, Sask, Manitoba agriculture groups. There's a ton of agrology services that you can access free and or paid for. There's soil sampling. There's things out there that if a person is seeking an answer for something, they can find it. I just don't feel that the consumer knows that. I don't think that the consumer realizes that, for every farmer out there, for every combine that's they see while they drive from Saskatoon to Edmonton, there's like a whole professional team of scientists and research people and soil samplers and fertilizer gurus and professional truck drivers that are all supporting these people, and everybody's trying to be as efficient as possible. Like, I don't see anybody wasting stuff unnecessarily. If the logistics are there and it makes sense, we're making changes, and that's how I think we all move forward. So I think the responsible grain code, from what I understand, something like that, a code of practice, has been said our customers are asking for proof that we're doing things good. And I think that we could do a better job of proving that. I think that all levels of the grain and food supply chain can do better at proving that we are doing the right action at the right time for the right reason. And it's such a complex answer that I don't know if the customer's really wanting to dive in and learn the information in order to make that answer make sense. Does that make sense, Kara?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, that's totally what I was looking for. Um, Before we wrap up, though, is there anything else you would like to add? Anything else you'd like to tell somebody maybe who's watching right now?
Well, we're kind of at the tail end of that winter funk where everybody's kind of like feeling the winter blues, and some people would go on trips, and or there'd be curling bonspiels starting right away, or hockey tournaments, and people with kids are stuck at home this reading week or this break, and it's cold and the kids can't go outside. Keep positive, keep optimistic. You know, I'm kind of, it's easy to dwell on the negative this time of year, and in agriculture there's always negative around somewhere somehow. So I think everybody who's listening, keep your chin up. Soon it's going to be really nice, and you're going to have to go cut your grass, and it's going to be nice barbecue deck weather, and we're going to be sweating in our coveralls while filling the air drills or putting cows out to pasture, and we're going to get bit by mosquitoes doing fencing. So let's focus on the long game. Short game's always rough this time of year, so let's keep our heads on straight.
Oh, absolutely. That's very well said. I know I had a little bit of that moment yesterday because it has been so cold, and it's just, you almost come up with the excuses. You're like, it's so cold. I'm not even gonna go outside. And then it warmed up a bit, and I was like, man, it is amazing what 5 minutes outside can do for a person. It
Yeah,
really, really can change things up.
I agree. And Yeah, I agree totally. It's the connections. I find everybody, we've kind of got this pandemic happening, and a neighbor stopped by the other day to drop off a tool that they had borrowed, and it turned into like an hour and a half conversation. And so it's kind of nice to connect with people now and then. It really puts an emphasis on community and on how it's great that you have good things around you. I think when they do show themselves, it's good to really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining in today and for all your insight. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate it too. You have a good day.
Yeah, you too. And thank you all who are watching and commenting. It is always great. I know I feel like I'm always repeating myself, but we really do love having you guys here. We love hearing from you, seeing all your comments, your questions. It really makes the day great for us. So thank you very much. If some of you are first time listeners, we are actually on Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. East or 1 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So please tune in. We got all sorts of conversations going on, and we're always happy to have you guys here. So thank you very much, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.